I want that bench to be as close to fine art as possible. I want it to say something. I want it to say, look at me, feel me, feast your eyes on me, just be involved with me and sit in it and revel in it. Well, I first heard about the commission, or I saw about the commission in the newspaper, and I took cognizance of it, but at the particular time I had so much work to do in my studio that I didn't think too seriously about it, to tell you the truth. And then one of my friends called me up and told me about it, and a week later someone else called me up and told me about it. So I thought, you know, I'd like to do this. And it's not a question of whether I wanted to do it or not. It's a question of the time did I have the time to do it? So I was involved with a commission in Princeton, with quite a lot of furniture that I had to make. And we finished it in time. And then I could give a little thought to doing this commission. But by the same token, I had worked for so long at such a great pace, night and day, doing this other job, that I felt like I needed to get away, just to get away, because I'm here all the time. I mean, I live here, and I'm working practically every night I come back to the shop. And while I was on the plane, I got thinking about the commission and the museum and what's in the museum and the whole aesthetic direction which the museum is taking. And I thought, boy, if I could get one of my pieces in there, it would indeed be an honor. It's a humbling experience to have something in this type of museum. And I know that one of the toughest things to do is to design simplicity in furniture. That's a hard thing to do. And I thought, well, I've done the throne chair. And I thought, well, I can't do a throne bench. I mean, but the more I thought about it, I said, that would be perfect, the perfect thing for the museum, because it's substantial simplicity, if you will. So I took out my pen and searched around for something to sketch on. And all I had was the airplane ticket, not the ticket itself, but the itinerary that the travel service people give you. And I took this out of my coat pocket, and while we're riding on the plane there, I drew this little sketch of this throne bench. When I came back, I started the process, and I made some scale drawings right here that I honed down and sent in to the museum. And lo and behold, I got a call from Bruce, and he said we had a 3-state commission open to members of 3-state craftsmen, and we had hundreds of applicants, and we narrowed it down to 49 serious sketches, and you were chosen. Seed is the most important aspect of the whole field of art, not only just in art and decorative arts, but the field of art, but specifically it applies specifically to me. Some people have a literary mind. They can read things, and they can hear things, and they can remember them. And some of us have a visual mind. And mostly that's where I'm strong in that area. I know that. I do have a visual memory. I love the tree in the natural form. I love the the wood after it's dried and in the racks in my barn. And I love working the wood. I love the hand tools. I love to work with the hand planes and the chisels. And I love sanding the wood and oiling the wood and rubbing it and bringing out the natural colors and the grain convolutions and the figure and the pattern of the wood. I just love that whole aspect of it. The worst thing to do is to start in on this beautiful one piece of walnut that you may have and then make a mistake or have it not work out. And then you have to rectify it, which you can't do. So we always make the important piece, any real important from an aesthetic standpoint, we make a prototype out of either poplar wood or pine. At that stage, I knew that's the part that I would have the problem. You know, that's when I would be able to solve the problem of the splat, which are the back supports. So we went ahead and I laid out and designed a paper pattern of the seat. And also I knew I had to rectify the sketch later on by widening the front supports because it was unsatisfying from an aesthetic standpoint later on in my eyes. So I did arrive at a width of the front supports. We got I got the paper patterns for the seat, and I was happy with that, and I was happy with the width of the supports, and happy with everything else, actually. So we put the prototype all together and left the backsplat area unsupported. And then what I did is to take a piece of 1/8 inch cardboard and cut it so it fit right in there. And then I kept sketching different things. Of course, of those pieces, then I made paper templates of. So now I have paper template of the seat, of the arms, the supporting members, the back pedestal, the front pedestal, and the splats. So now we have paper templates of the whole thing. The next process is to superimpose those templates in simply a rough manner to see if the wood you're choosing is going to be the right wood. But I would like to get a central figure in the wood so that when you look at the bench from a grain standpoint, there is a central part of the wood that attracts you and then goes out towards the ends in figuration. We plane the surface of the wood and sand it in a rough sanding so you can get a nice flat plain surface to lay your patterns on. We lay the patterns on and very carefully go around and trace that, and then saw the wood out on the bandsaw. Which, having said that, it's a little bit more difficult, and it's just not that easy because these are big, heavy slants. This tree I cut down in around the late 50s, probably 56, 58, 59, and I've had that wood ever since. Remember, this is 49 inches in diameter, so I couldn't really just do the work all by myself. So I had to get a couple of fellows from Lambertville who had a crane. And he had a heavy-duty stake-body truck, big, heavy tires on it. And when we lifted up that first chunk of the tree trunk itself and put on the truck, it went, I thought the whole thing was going to collapse. That's how heavy it was, tremendous weight. But then I took it to a sawmill down in South Jersey. And the problem with sawing a slab like this is that getting a sawmill big enough, the old type sawmill. And this particular chap had a a sawmill where he had a blade on the underside and a blade on the top, and they met. 6-foot in diameter blades that are saw moving around. So we took the log down to this sawmill in South Jersey, and then subsequently he cut it up in boards, and then we had to get down there and get the wood. It's not easy designing something that's good and has everything that you want in it. You have to go through a mental work, and you have to do sketch after sketch after sketch and make things, make prototypes, and constantly revolve. So fine furniture is an evolved thing. It doesn't happen. A lot of people think, oh, how lucky you are that you think of something and you just do it and there it is. And it's not that way at all. You may make sketches, do them up in the full scale, and then they don't hang together, because what is a little sketch here may not necessarily hang up and hang together in a full-blown scale. My father had all the tools down in the cellar for restoring the antiques that he was collecting. Not that he was an official restorer. I don't mean to say that he did it for a living, but the antiques that he bought, where it needed some work, why he would restore that. And that's where I learned a lot about furniture and how it's put together, how it's made. And this has been invaluable to me. One thing that one advantage of growing up in restoring antique furniture is that you know how to make all the joints, and you know how to do all the dovetails, and you know the whys and wherefores. Therefore, I don't have to make that mistakes when I make furniture. I think one of the most important things, other than having an artistic talent, is to have a mechanical aptitude. In furniture, it's an absolute necessity. You've got to know how to sharpen tools. You've got to manipulate those tools. You've got to have the hand-eye coordination to be able to hew a line with a chisel or a plane. Also, secondarily, when you have that mechanical aptitude, you want to utilize it so that you produce something that makes you satisfied. I knew that there was a part of it which would be a little bit difficult, because the throne chair itself comes off great. So I could take and elongate it, but there are certain measurements that have to stay the same. In other words, for practical purposes, I can't just blow up that throne chair, because the back would be like 5 feet high. So we have to have a back that will support people's back, and that has to be a certain specific dimension. So what that means is that we're elongating the whole throne chair, but the back has to remain the same. The back that I have made out of 4 members, now I got to extend for this however long it needed to be for a bench. I think the pegs should be, they're a structural part of it, and they should be shown and celebrated as part of the design itself. In this piece, the pegs will be out of ebony. And many times, even to further decorate this accent point, I will take a large peg and put a piece of maple in it, and then hollow out that maple and put another piece of ebony inside of that. So in a sense, it becomes like an eyeball. When it comes to finishing this, the secret of any finish is the work, the hand sanding. The fineness of the wood is very important. It has to be sanded fine to the finest degree of sandpaper. Then I will apply this oil mixture that I have, that is passed down in my family from father to son. There seems to be a dichotomy in many people's minds regarding the doing of, or the making of your own contemporary work, and the fact that you all can also do reproduction work or antique work. In my mind, there's no dichotomy whatsoever. It's a continuous stream, because the best of each period were works of art, and they carried forth the same aesthetic principles that we hope to carry in my contemporary work. One of the reasons that I do museum-type copies when people demand them is because from a creative aspect, no one can be creative forever. I mean, you just can't create on and on and on. And in the meantime, while I recoup my creative energies, I can do the antique restoration work or the antique copy work. Besides doing private commissions, I've also been commissioned by the National Park Service, and I've had several presidential commissions to do things. The presidential commission was to make a desk that John F. Kennedy used when he was president for the John F. Kennedy Memorial Library in Boston. I like the challenge of going from one to the other, if you will. There are many times that I feel very strongly about doing my own things, and I do that. And these commissions are not every day of the week, you know. I don't get a presidential commission all the time. So in between, I have to make a living. And I enjoy making my own things, and I also enjoy working on pieces of this nature. The important thing you have to remember is that I was raised in the country. All my time was spent with my family or by myself or out in the nature. As a consequence, either through an innate ability or no other place to put energy, I think I started very early sketching things. One of the things when you start to try to draw a piece of furniture that you have never drawn before, or that you try to draw a piece of furniture that you've seen and try to remember, you darn soon find out how little you have seen. And in trying to do that, it sharpens up your eyesight so that you get a visual memory, so to speak, of the things. I remember a quote from a book I read many years ago called The Big Sky. It said, and this is a quote, "Every part of time is good in itself if a person knows how to enjoy it and doesn't press it to pass so as to get ahead to something else." And I've tried to follow that in my work. In other words, enjoy that planing. Don't just do it in such a hurry that it's meaningless. And you can see that in the work. You can see the chairs that I make as opposed to, say, somebody else making a chair like that. You can see that I feel that my furniture has my heart and soul into it, and I try to put my heart and soul into every piece. And not just in the total piece, but in every part of that piece. And how I create is because wherever I go, ever since I've been going, since I've been a boy, I have a visual memory of things like forms and shapes and trees and woods and people moving along. And that is inside here, and I can call on that. I remember a specific incident where my son was on a swing we had, and do you know when a boy swings, when a young boy really gets into it and he swings and he goes out as far as he can go, and then he prepares himself for the return. His chest goes out and his arms come back and his legs are tucked in. The body made in that form, and I kept remembering seeing that shape of his body and his buttocks and his legs and his thighs and his calves and feet go back. And from that shape, I evolved the continuum series of furniture that I designed. I've talked to other people, other artists in the field, and it all begins and comes with seeing, and seeing and remembering. And in other words, you have a visual library in your head that you are able to call upon. There's another quote that I remember from a book, and it's about beauty. If we forsake beauty for our desperate struggle to survive, the barbarian has already won. In other words, I want to have beauty in all aspects of my life. You know, I want to have beauty. I want to surround myself with beauty, and I want to make beauty. Beauty in the sense that it has some artistic or aesthetic value or purpose. Getting back to the bench and the beauty aspect too, I think that it's important that we remember that there's more to an object than just what it's used for. And there'll be more to this bench than just rather than sitting on it. Got it there? I'm deeply honored, really deeply honored, to have my work in the permanent collection of the James A. Michener Museum. You know, I have my work, as Bruce mentioned some of the places, but I have my work in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, the Philadelphia Museum, the High Museum in Atlanta, Georgia, the National Gallery of Fine Arts, the Smithsonian Institution. But you know, and the John F. Kennedy Memorial, even in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia. But nothing gives me greater pleasure than having my work here in this museum. I really mean that. The reason being is because this is where I live, and this is where I work, this is where my friends are, but more importantly, I think it's the people here that make the big difference.
I promise you that when you sit in this bench, you will feel like a prince or a princess. So if we have an imaginary drum roll, ta-da, 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 ta-da!